Is this the biggest featherweight prospect since Alex Volkanovski? Let's find out.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your main event.
Live from HBF Stadium Festival Hall. Melbourne Pavilion.
Not even backstage, we're literally outside.
Was that the best fight card in Australian MMA history?
Call me crazy, but make sure you call me when I'm right.
Be good if the Aussie MMA Instagram page would give us a bit of glow up because we're killing it.
Welcome to the Australian MMA podcast. My name is Mitch Tinley. Shout out to From the Stance. I stole that opening line, so go check them out if you'd like. This is, of course, the reaction for Hex Fight Series 32, which is on Melbourne, September 7th, 2024. There's loads to talk about, so we got to get into it. You like my hat? It's not for sale. All right, where to start? It was a good show, all cracking fights. I won't go through all of them. Shout out to, I think it's Ilya and Trepka. Both just did really well. I'm sure I'll have plenty more time and plenty of reasons to talk about them in the future. So keep an eye on those guys. They were on the cards, but there was a few fights I really want to get into very quickly. Shout out, of course, to Ricky Beechin, who beat a man inside of a man who used another man as his uniform. It was a large man. He knocked out a 170-kilo man. It's not too often that you see a heavyweight looking small, but Ricky Beechin knocking out Leo. And just a good fight. It was a good fight. Like, I didn't think it would be. Normally when you get the super heavyweights, you don't think it's going to be anything sort of crazy. In terms of, might be a knockout. Maybe it'll be just sort of up against the cage. But no, it was pretty action-packed. Ricky Beechin proving very much that he probably deserves a shot at maybe Brando Pericic. And then the winner of that can maybe have a second go at Randall Raymond. I think that would be a good decision for the Hex heavyweight title. So maybe that's a matchup in the future. I don't know if either of those boys want it or what Randall wants to do, but that's my thoughts. Once again, none of these fights are in order. And remember, you might watch me a lot. They're just my opinions, guys. Relax. Just relax. Just relax. This fight I wanted to get into straight away because it's a fight I was probably most excited going in. Two of the best amateur careers fighting each other so early on in pro, which you do not see, especially in boxing or anything like that. And in MMA, it's becoming sort of few and far between as well. But Jake Piper taking on Kasib Nurmagomedov. Kasib Murdoch, just stud. It gave me like, sounds really weird, but it gave me like Khabib versus Conor vibes. I don't know. It just felt like you knew what Kasib was trying to do. He was trying to take him down immediately. He could box. I mean, he's a youth Olympian in boxing, which is wild. But training out of freestyle MMA, of course, the home of the great Alexander Volkanovski, it gives those vibes, man. He's got that. He's got that little build. I feel like that's a great mentor, great leader for him. And I said going into the show that he would shoot and he would grapple, and boy, does he. But he does damage when he's down there. Elbows, punches, he tries to finish. So he's like very exciting, and you don't mind it going to the ground. He ultimately finished it via Kimura. But shout out to Jake the Crow Piper. I mean, dude's a stud. Like I said, if I walked into an alleyway and Kasib was there and Jake was there, way more scared of Jake Piper. Nothing to do with the fighting. He's just like an intense, wild individual. So talented. Doesn't sort of get the credit he deserves a lot of the times, but he did very well up against the cage, defending the takedowns. Any other fighter would have been finished 2 rounds earlier type thing. Jake Piper, huge career. Like I said, that's a future title fight that happened so soon. It was very, very bizarre that happened so quickly. But shout out to Jake Piper. He really wanted to get that matchup in, and taking on Kasib Murdoch, who I'm dead set serious. Like he will fight for a title, and Jake Piper knows that as well. So to have Kasib Murdoch let's fight. I think it was a weight class above too, 6 days notice. I mean, I know that goes for both fighters, but still, Jake Piper for like accepting that fight when most people would have been like, I'm not fighting Kasib Nurmagomedov. He is too scary. That would have been a valid excuse as well. And then obviously shout out to Kasib Murdoch, who has had a weird approach into his pro career. Obviously, like 10-0, I think won Worlds, Youth Olympian boxer, like absolute stud. Like everyone thinks he's going to be an absolute champion. And he just whooped some Balinese boys over the last couple months. And this was like a real test for him. And Jake Piper's like no slouch. Like you would have, if you saw the fight, you'd know. Both those boys will compete for titles at some stage in the next 5 years. Yeah, so definitely check that out. And shout out to both of them. Kasib Murdoch, the moment is yours. Jake Piper, I wouldn't be surprised if he's back by November and trying to take the heads off of fools. So good job, boys. Another super sneaky sleeper, awesome fight that I said going in. Marwan Rahiki, who is a Rahiki striker, and he proved just that. Michael Mannu, man, awesome. He looked good. Michael Mannu recently just came up short to Colby Thickness, who will probably eventually be the Hex Bantamweight champion. Michael Mannu up at featherweight, taking on Rahiki. Looked good, man. He came out. I really thought Manu's sort of like keys to victory. He can definitely strike, but was to grapple. And he did not shy away from Rahiki, who has some like Anderson Silva style movement. Like that. This is going to sound so stupid. I understand this from like not just a white belt, like in terms of being a professional MMA fighter, like just a white belt in life. But like that chin weirdly like felt like a little high, as dumb as that sounds. And you guys are all saying, Mitchell, shut the fuck up. But like when I watched it, I don't know, it's just kind of like he threw from his hips a little bit more, which I was a little bit like, oh, it's interesting. But if we had an Australian MMA video game, I feel like Marwan Rahiki's striking would be like 99 out of 100. It's wildly good. It's wildly dangerous. And he showed just that. Michael Mannu was not afraid of striking with him either. I think he threw a spinning wheel kick, hook kick to start the fight. Like was not afraid. So I was actually really impressed with Mannu as well, who has done some dangerous stuff, man. Like he's beaten some guys. Go watch his previous Eternal fight with Anthony Drillich. Michael Manu's definitely still got it. And that's what I said going into this fight. Like, will he be the quote unquote gatekeeper, or will he still prove that he is a contender? I think he still does. I just think Rahiki's like just that good. Like I really do. And I think that because George Mangos, the Hex Featherweight champion, once again, we will get to him. He says that this is going to sound very similar to my preview of Hex 32, but George says that Rahiki is special, and when the guy that is special tells you that this guy is special, well, that guy is probably special. So keep an eye on Marwan Rahiki. I wouldn't mind him seeing Rahiki fighting like a Kyle Maoki. That would be a nice one. But I don't know. I'm kind of a little old school in the sense of like, I like seeing all these young guys fight each other early. It's cool. But in a weird way, I like kind of like 2 or 3 fights, almost like building them in a way and seeing if they're the real deal. And then so we have like 2 real deals and then they fight each other and we see who like the ultimate real deal is. So I wouldn't mind seeing Rahiki maybe taking on like a Jarrett Wilbraham, or maybe even like a Sem Kakembo, seeing if he can get through those guys. Because even in his debut, I don't know if you guys know, but like Julian Justiniano was like a hell of a fighter. Like he's really, really good fighter. He's unfortunately got some injuries right now, but like everyone sort of Rahiki has beaten has been very good, and Michael Mannu is like very, very, very good. So shout out to him. He'll be back. Speaking of that, if Mannu wants to sort of stay at featherweight, I wouldn't mind him taking on once again like a Jarrett or a Sem. I think that works well. Or if he wants to maybe jump ship or fight somewhere else, just go fight at Diego Pereira. That'd be a nice fight. Michael Mannu versus Diego Pereira. But the moment belongs to Rahiki, who set the sort of scenes for Lions Den Academy, and they should be very stoked with him. He's box office, man. I tell you what. You get George main event, you get Rahiki co-main, and it's going to be an exciting night. So shout out Mr. Marwan. Kieran Joblin, the stone cutter. Jeez. Amazing. He absolutely just dominated Jack Lyons, who is no slouch, man. I still think Jack Lyons has got a lot to give. He's unfortunately on a bit of a skid, but the guys he's lost to are not crap at all. They are very good fighters. Jack Lyons still can kind of go as far as he wants to go. But yeah, Kieran Joblin just looked amazing. I don't know how much Joblin has left. I think he alluded post-fight that he's kind of maybe like one more fight and he's done, or just kind of finding the right moment to be done. And I think he called for a Hex lightweight title shot. So that would be cool. I'm not entirely sure who he would fight, because especially on the sort of Hex end, lightweights are quite thin. But yeah, I got no qualms with that. Let me know who you think should jump up and should try and get in on this against Kieran Joblin. Go in the comments of if you're on YouTube, or if you're on the podcast, head on over to the YouTube page, subscribe, and let me know who you think Kieran Joblin should fight for the Hex lightweight title. But I don't see why he shouldn't. I think he's done enough in this sport, and I think if anything, the sport of MMA owes him this on his way out. And I think that'd be very good. Maybe we bring back Josh Togo, who's coming back from the PFL. I don't know how many fights is on his deal, and I think that'd be a really nice fight. So yeah, I mean, check that out. Jack Lyons, he'll be back. Like I said, he'll recover, shake it all off, and hopefully we see him back as well. But Kieran Joblin, mate, excellent. And the final 3 fights. Like I said, there was other fights on the card. Go check them out if you want. Combat Sports Network, and yeah, you'll find it. But Matt Vaile versus Jono Macallef. Jeez, Jono is back. Matt Vaile seems like he's not going anywhere either. Unfortunately, going down round 1, rear naked choke to Jono Macallef. I thought it was an interesting game plan to almost at times it felt like it was getting into a muscle strength battle with Jono Macallef, who looks like a whole bunch of walnuts tied together with glad wrap. He's made of rocks. So I thought that was an interesting strategy. But Matt Vaile was doing really well. I mean, Matt Vaile's been around and he's done just about everything. I thought he would have tried to keep it standing a little bit more. But it was kind of cool, and Matt Vaile looks super strong. I will always wonder how that Joseph Luciano and Matt Vaile fight would go. The fight that never happened, the fight that was going to happen in Sydney, and it never eventuated. Jono Macallef, I don't know what he should do next. I wouldn't be surprised if he is kind of the number 1 contender for the fight that was announced on the card for Hex 33, but that's in November. Jono didn't take much damage. Kit Campbell taking on Caleb Rideout for the Hex welterweight title. That's going ahead, but I think Jono Macallef is definitely the number 1 contender for that. But then he has to sit, and keep in mind it's Hex, so they've got 4 or 5 fights a year. So then you're looking at Jono would have to sit until February. I think he wants to do that. So, who steps up? Who knows? I know that Jack James is injured, but they've fought before. Joseph Luciano's off to the PFL. Bellator, PFL, same thing. I wouldn't be surprised too. By the way, there's a lot of rumors going around that the PFL Australia is coming next year, and there's a welterweight tournament. So, without a doubt, I would say you'd probably see Jono Macallef and Matt Vaile in that. But Jono Macallef looked amazing, looked good on the feet, amazing on the ground. Everyone knows how amazing he is on the ground. He's so flexible but so strong. He's just a stud. He just really is a stud. Bear with me. I'm back. Just had a little gander at our friend's Tapology, just to sort of get the juices flowing on who I think he should fight next. Now, I don't think we will see Jono Macallef taking on Alden Bates a second time, especially at Alden's age. I feel like all of his bouts, he's going to want new guys to hopefully get that shot at the UFC. And I don't believe he would be ready by November. Otherwise, kind of Hex wouldn't have stripped the belt off him. Anyway, so I actually think maybe Jono Macallef, maybe he takes a little old trippy trip over to Eternal. Maybe they offer him that fight against Lachlan Stitt. I know Khan Diata is calling for that fight for the welterweight title, but if Jono Macallef enters the chat, I just think his resume and what he's done recently might just edge unfortunately, Diata out just a little bit and give him that fight with Stitt. But who knows? I'm just saying that could happen. Not that I'm necessarily saying he should jump on over, but I do believe that looking at all the fighters that are available, there might not be too much there for Mr. Macallef. He must kick me in the head too. Co-main event time, and as From the Stand said, another Like Me channel out there. The best prospect at featherweight since Alex Volkanovski. That's rude to Josh Kulabau, but and all the other featherweights. So yeah, I would not encourage, and Jack Jenkins, I would not encourage them to dislike From the Stands for saying that, but we move on. Look, he's an amazing talent. 5-0, 5 finishes, Hex lightweight champion. George Mangos is just an absolute superstar. 21. He just turned 21, I believe. Look, the world is his oyster, man. He is finishing guys. He's even getting tested. I find it quite interesting too, as well. He keeps taking on these freestyle MMA guys, which Joe Lopez, who runs Freestyle MMA, of course, Alex Volkanovski's head coach and Freestyle MMA, he's had 2 looks at him now, and it's like, so they've had like every opportunity to try and like figure him out. So obviously not as simple as that. George is that good. He just finds a way to get people's back and choke him out. I know he kind of wants to stand a little bit more, and the sort of striking of Jarrett is a bit of a chess match at times. But yeah, George did what George does, man. He gets to the back and you see him on someone's back. It's just it's incredible. Okay. Matchup to make. George Mangos. Here's a storyline for you. Now you do whatever you want. I'm just a dude that wants to see fights. Don't care about promotions. Don't care about feelings. Here's what I want to see. George Mangos jumps on over to Eternal, the same brand that he jumped out of the Grand Prix to gamble on this opportunity to take on Van Heerden to win the featherweight belt at Hex. He then jumps back because he's George Mangos. And even though you're mad at him for leaving the Grand Prix, he's one of the best prospects we've ever had. He jumps back. You put him in there with Seb Saleh. Now, why is that amazing? Because George Mangos has an opportunity to do the clean sweep of freestyle. Justin Van Heerden, Jarrett Wilbraham, Seb Saleh, George Mangos would be a star. Now, Seb Saleh, he gets the opportunity to get revenge for 2 of his teammates, Justin Van Heerden, Jarrett Wilbraham. Oh, I don't know. Look, if you're Eternal, I know there's different multiverses. It's DC versus Marvel out there sometimes. But I know that Kevin Cophamel deserves a title shot. So whenever he's ready to go, I don't care who you are, Kevin Cophamel, after his fight of the century with Harry Webb, he can just kick anyone out the way and he gets the featherweight title shot. But if he's not ready to go, maybe in October, so November, whenever the next Eternal card is, around that time, George Mangos, Seb Saleh, all the marbles. If George wins, he's off to the stratosphere. If Seb wins, he takes all of that hype as well, because Seb is an absolute stud. And then if you put him in there with George Mangos, all eyes are on him. He finally gets to properly cement himself. Like if he hasn't already, he gets to really cement himself as like the number 1 of featherweight. Like I said, Kevin Cophamel is in the bushes. He's watching, he's there. But God, I'm putting this into the universe. George Mangos, Seb Saleh, belt for belt. winner takes all. It's possible. Finally, Cynthia Calvillo taking on Lisa Kyriacou. Unfortunately, it felt like a bit of a shutout for Mrs. Calvillo. Lisa had some opportunities and some sort of good things to come of it. I think Cynthia's still very good. I think Lisa is still very good. She obviously will take a little bit from this and learn and know what she has to do. But like, that's basically getting in the UFC without being in the UFC. It's like when a really famous fighter comes and does a seminar and you tap him, you know, you're basically that good. No, that's random. Don't ever do that. But Lisa Kyriacou, I think she got that UFC test. The road to UFC one was a little different because you know that person like hasn't made a name for themselves. Yes, Cynthia Calvillo was sort of on a losing streak and whatnot, but she's still a stud of a fighter. Lisa, unfortunately, kind of, you know, definitely lost that fight. So, you know, where does she go from here? But she shouldn't be discouraged at all. She's only 30. You're in the women's division, so you're one fight away from being a GOAT type thing. So, look, maybe Amina gets that victory at UAE and Amina Hedaya and her do a bit of a rematch there, or who does Cynthia Calvillo fight? Maybe what I just said, Amina Hedaya. Maybe she gets that win and then she comes over and defends. But what I wouldn't mind seeing, and I know they can't do this because of like contracts and whatnot, but Jacinta Austin and Cynthia Calvillo would have been a really, really nice fight. And then Amina Hedaya versus Lisa Kyriacou in my like fantasy world. But that won't happen. What I think, in my uneducated opinion, Cynthia Calvillo, from, you know, former UFC fame, I think she fights someone else that is just like they bring in another international. So it's just sort of, it'll be maybe like co-main event of another card or something like say the next card, right? I don't think it'll be the next card, but say it's the next card, Kit Campbell versus Caleb Rideout. That's the main event. Co-main event, Cynthia Calvillo versus someone from America. You know, just bring them both out, bit of a display. Look at us, we're putting on international fights. I don't know. More than likely, if Amina Hedaya gets this victory, I reckon she gets the shot. So that's my bet. Lisa Kyriacou, bit of a weird spot. I reckon she goes back, licks her wounds, figures this out. If Jacinta Austin hasn't moved on, I think she makes the jump to Eternal. And even though she's coming off a loss, it's against such a good caliber sort of fighter. You just put her in there with Jacinta Austin. I don't know. I'm sure I get messages about it. I welcome them. You can drop it in the comments, Australian MMA, or hit up Australian MMA _. Let me know what you think, what you thought, or just unfollow me and don't collaborate on my posts anymore. All right, guys. See you later. See you next time. I love you all. Love the sport. Drive safe. Be safe. See you next time.
Fuel the fight with Australian-made MMA-inspired streetwear and support the next generation of MMA superstars. Delivering unprecedented support to the Aussie MMA scene, support PRP Global on their journey. 100% of profits go to the fighters. Check PRP Global out today.